So Lindy is the secretary and I continue to be the president, and Lindy came on board a couple of years ago and has been my right-hand man, so to speak, for a
woman.
Woman, yeah, sorry about that. And indispensable. Couldn't have done half of what we've done without her. So she's expert at writing grants and things. So it's wonderful to have her on board. Yes, we came together about 5 years ago, as many of you know. We continue to be a group of 9 women. We did have Jim on board. We haven't heard from Jim for some time, not quite sure what he's up to these days. And we're, as Chris said, part of a skiff movement that's global. I believe there are skiffs in Africa, Norway, Holland, New Zealand, Canada, Scotland, obviously, and the UK. Yeah, they're just absolutely taking off, or were before COVID. And we've been lucky enough through COVID to be approached by Hobson's Bay to actually, because we've, as we'll talk about later, got grants from them. Actually, they made a little video with a working with Victoria employee, and you might like to have a little look at this now, which will go through a little bit of our history, and you'll meet some of the other members too by looking at this.
I'd just finished work, so I'd sort of retired from my job. So I was pretty interested to do something on the water. I knew I didn't want to get on a boat with a whole lot of blokes and be racing, which is what they do a lot in Williamstown. I happened to go to the senior citizens club for a Christmas thing, and Vicky Tyrrell was there, who is a person who's been involved with the boat. So she said, come along. I came along and saw what everyone was doing and knew that a group of women had built a boat, and I found that really inspiring because none of them had done any boat building before.
I'd worked in community development and I thought this is a perfect project, particularly living in Williamstown, and where would it fit and how can I do it? So I put a poster up in the libraries in Hobson's Bay and called a meeting in Williamstown Library.
There were lots and lots of inquiries, and the first meeting in the library we had a packed room full of people that were interested.
People were amazed that they would have a chance to use tools that they hadn't used before and actually produce something and be part of something that was a bit original for the area. This is a 21-foot St Ives skiff that was designed by Ian Orchard in Scotland, funnily enough, but Ian is an Australian. He was commissioned to design a boat in a similar fashion to a Scottish fishing boat that would have been used in the Isles. The kit itself is 6 or 7 planks of marine ply that have been laser cut but not completely cut out. So we have to work out which side is the correct side to be used, how many pieces and which pieces link together, and mark them all as we cut them out of the flat sheets, which was quite a puzzle.
Well, let's say I had never picked up a tool in my life. I've never been really that way inclined. All of a sudden I've entered in a workshop, you could call it a shed, that we've brought whatever tools we could find, battery powered to saws, electric saws, and each part of the build required a new skill along the way, and then we'd incorporate them. So we'd use some of the initial skills further down the track. So many skills, I can't even think of how many that we've learnt along the way.
It was 3 years working on a Thursday night for 3 hours, and we did occasional weekend work as well.
Yeah, a disparate group of different personalities have come together, and so we've made friends with people we wouldn't normally come across perhaps. They're in different walks of life, and that's been really lovely.
The girls, they're a lovely, they're a great bunch. I really think it's amazing that in all these years, at least 3 years, I don't believe we had one fight.
There's a huge amount of support needed to get a build like this going and to continue.
We were given some money by a generous benefactor, which actually kick-started the project. And then we heard about the community grants through Hobson's Bay, and we were able to apply for one of those.
We actually were successful and we got funding from Hobson's Bay. We decided to launch it in November 2019 and to involve the community as well as much as possible.
That was the first time we'd put it in the water, and I just couldn't believe it when we launched it in and it floated. I was honestly jumping out of my skin. It was so exciting. We've had a bit of rowing tuition from a local community member, which has been fantastic, learning different skills and techniques. We've also done a bit of rowing down at Warrnambool in the St Iles Skiff Coastal Rowing Competition, which was a bit of a hoot.
We've made a partnership with the Williamstown Lifesaving Club, and we're just in the process now of organising some training in water and boat safety and also first aid for the committee members and also for a few women who have come from migrant background or refugee background.
Our boat is a community opportunity for people to be on the water, perhaps follow our project and be inspired to perhaps build more locally and across Victoria.
It's a beautiful vessel, and that it's been built by women. I think it's just a really good example to a lot of women that, you know, you can actually do anything.
As the video explained, it took us over 3 years, and Lindy will talk a little bit more about what else we've achieved.
Okay, so as you saw, that was the launch of the skiff, which I think quite a few of you were there. It was a fun day. It was great to have the local pipe band there. Also, we've had come and try days. I understand there was 1 or 2 before I actually came on board, which was a couple of years ago. And there's been maybe come and try days, Jane, yeah?
Yeah, we ran those, a couple out of the Royals, and another one was with Jim Barr in where some of you would have been, it would have been 3 or 4 years ago at Docklands, using Jim's boat, so the Carryad, which was fantastic. He was very, very generous with his boat and time.
Yeah. So we've also got Instagram and Facebook page. We don't have the links up there, but we can certainly send them out if anyone wants them. And also for 3 years participated in the Warrnambool Skip event. I've been to one of those and that was great fun. And also, Jane, you've participated, haven't you, at the Franklin Tasmanian events? And
yes.
The return raid. Yeah.
And does everyone know what a raid is? The raids are events that I'm sure you do, and that run over a series of days. I think it's a week to 10 days, the actual raid. We tended to do the return raid because most of us work and it was a bit hard for us to get the time off. And the return raid was taking the boats back from Hobart to Franklin. And a lot of my friends over there actually think that that's more fun than the real raid. So we certainly had a lot of fun. The first few we did it, we had incredibly bad weather, as you know you can do down there, and we had to delay the departure by a day, which meant that one day I think we did 35-kilometre row one day in pretty appalling conditions. But just the challenge of it and being part of a crew, as you would all know, when you're part of a crew and you all pull together, it's just an incredible event. And you get to know people quite intimately in those times. And I formed friendships with people in Franklin that are very, very strong. And I speak to those people on a regular basis. And I feel very honoured to know them. So as we've mentioned, we've had various fundraising opportunities along the way. Mainly, obviously, your group made a very generous donation initially. An anonymous benefactor gave us some money as well. And we've had community grants totaling $7,300, which has enabled us to have various different events. We continue to have fundraising using the Yucca laundry powder, which they generously give us a percentage of the money. And we've been doing Bunnings sausage sizzles. For the last 2 years, we've had one booked, but obviously they are not happening very often these days.
And these crafts are from money that we got for the community grants from the Hobsons Bay Council. We were intending to have more people at the water safety and first aid training, but because of COVID, the actual grants were halved. So we all went, and we also had a woman from the River Nile School come along. She's a teacher there, Jackie, so she came along as well. So we're hoping to get her involved, but that was in February 2021.
Was this year? Yeah.
Yeah. But that was great because that was through a partnership with the Williamstown Life Saving Club, and so the two trainers were from the Williamstown Life Saving Club, and it's actually, I think, been a really great opportunity to do some. We were planning to do more stuff with them, weren't we, Jane? But
we were.
Happened. So
there was supposed to be a race with the whale boats, the skiffs, and the surf boats this month, and they've got funding for that, so it will still go ahead. It will just be delayed due to
the other grants were for things like wood for the oars and for equipment and things like that. But they've been actually really good, especially when we have to actually report back on the grants, is knowing that not much has happened in the last 12 months, so we don't have to report on them until the end of 22, I think now.
Yeah,
a couple of them. So that we've had kind of great communication with the council, haven't we, Jane? So
we have. The problem with council grants, although this year they did make a concession and they gave us a little bit of money towards rental, but as we'll talk about later, our outgoings per year would be probably about $4,500 a year, maybe $5,000, because we're about to take out public liability insurance. Those costs are not covered, and because we're not able to fundraise, and because we're a small group, it's getting quite difficult, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So another source of income is membership, which was $50 per member annually, but this has now been increased to cover the rental, so that we're all making a donation every 4 weeks that will come close to adding up to the rental on Seaworks, where we keep the boat in a shed, which most of you will know where that is. Yes, so we've made a commitment to do that until next June, and with our fingers and toes crossed that we might be able to raise more money, bring in new members, and increase our income that way down the track. So we've had a collaboration, as Lindy spoke about, with Geelong in making oars. We got funding from council to make these, and Geelong had made some oars with the engineers at Deakin. So we thought that we would have a go at making similar oars. These are made out of spruce and Oregon, and we haven't been able to get back to them to finish them. They look a little bit better than that these days, but not much, because the oars that we've been using are ones that have been loaned to us by Jim, and are quite short. They're only 11-foot oars, and these are, well, we've got two lengths. They're 13.5 and 12.8, I think, depending on the position in the boat. And they had made up a jig and a lathe down in Fyonsford, in the old quarry down there, which is a very interesting place if anyone's ever been there. And we had some wonderful days down there with a couple of the members from Geelong.
Somebody just asked on the chat where we kept the tools and the boat, and I just said that they're all in the shed still at Seaworks, and that's what we're paying the rent on. As you can see in that picture, that's the shed there, and all the tools are kept there, but some of the tools are also used from Ferdy next door, aren't they, who's the boat builder. But
yep.
All of our equipment and stuff is kept there and is all locked up there. So that's why we're really wanting to keep that shed. It's also great for community events, and when we have come and try days, to have barbecues and things there as well. So we've looked at other sort of places to keep it, but they just wouldn't work as well as that wonderful old shed that's actually right next door to the first morgue in Melbourne, if everyone would like to know.
Yeah, on that point, Lindy, other reasons for us wanting to keep the shed is the proximity to the water, which is quite important. The central location. We have approached all the waterfront boat or waterfront clubs, and none of them have any storage space for us.
Or if they had storage space, it would just be outside, wouldn't it?
Yes.
With not having somewhere to keep equipment and things.
Yes, and some of these boats are around, like Geelong are now keeping one in the water. Franklin have a couple in the water, but those environments have easy access to a lot of manpower and tools and maintenance opportunities. So we may be seeking some expertise from you as a club down the track on how to actually maintain the boat if we do need to, one, even in its current state, but if we do have to store it outside, where should we get a tarp from? How do we maintain the boat in the weather? Yes, because these are things that we're just learning about, and we know that we've been told that these boats do need a lot of maintenance if they're left outside, and certainly if they're left in the water anyway.
The other thing that we're paying for is the insurances for the trailer and the registration and the public liability insurance at the moment. And I can't remember the exact amount for that. Can you, Jane?
It's 655 or something like that. But we've also been invited to, in a collaboration with SASCRA, which is the Australian-wide St Ives skiff group that exists. I actually managed, with Andrew Cohen's help, to find to talk to David, who you might all know, is it David Cooper, Andrew? Can't remember. A mental block. About getting insurance for public events. And so it looks as if that's going to go ahead, because if we do it as a group, it'll be a lot cheaper. So that'll be added outgoings that we need to find, but it will give us extra security in actually running events down the track.
And then, yeah, we have on average about 500 of maintenance costs, and I love the idea of shipping the boat to Tasmania as well for events, etc. That's something that hasn't been done yet.
It hasn't been done by us, but we have been involved in taking Jim's boat and 2 other boats over there in the past before your time, Lindy, which was quite it's quite an undertaking. They actually managed to convert a trailer and carry 3 together across to Tasmania. But it takes a bit of organising to get that happening, and it's not cheap to take a trailer across.
So I'll talk about a couple of things here. I guess the thing is, what we're wanting to do when we can is to have we've set up a WhatsApp group of people that came and expressed interest in coming to another Come and Try Day, and they expressed interest at the launch. So we are planning to have another Come and Try Day with a barbecue, and also to encourage people to join up and become members. We have not planned when we're going to do that at this point. I imagine it will be sometime early next year, fingers crossed. In the meantime, it's the 9 of us that are the members. The other thing is to, continue with and enhance a partnership with the Willie Lifesaving Club. They're really keen for us to be involved with them. They were really happy that we, used their facilities. We were able to pay the trainers through the grants and things there. And also, through my history, my work history, I've done a lot of work with people from culturally and linguistically diverse background and refugees. So we particularly like to work quite a lot with the CALD communities, they're called, CALD. And the Williamstown Lifesaving Club are really keen to get people from different backgrounds involved. So hopefully that partnership will continue. Go, Jane. I'll let you go for the next one.
So we continue to actively pursue philanthropy, and I've spoken to a few people about this. I think I must get a bit boring in company sometimes, because I get talking about the boat. And do you know anyone who might be able to help us? We would obviously like to become an independent group down the track. We've just been stalled in various ways, as have lots of clubs, and I'm sure, I know for certain that we're not alone in this area, and I know that money is a bit thin on the ground at the moment, but we would hate to, if we give up Seaworks, I feel as if that the cohesiveness of the group could fall apart, and I feel that at the moment it's quite important to our existence to be able to try and stay there. And so that's what we're trying to pursue at the moment. We've gone through as many options as we possibly can, and we keep coming back to being there at the moment. And they have been generous at Seaworks this year in actually letting us reduce the cost a little, which has been helpful, but they obviously can't allow that to continue.